Steins a sci-fi visual novel about time travel, but it's also much more than that. It's also about the depiction of the human spirit and the consequences of creating time machines. As a disclaimer, I will now say that these are more my general thoughts and not a deep analysis about Steins Gate. I will give my opinion on these different categories. First, I'll talk about the story, then I will talk about the characters, I will talk about the gameplay, I will talk about the art, then I will talk about the openings and the soundtracks, and finally I will talk about the comparison between the anime and the visual novel. First, I'm gonna talk about the story. I'm not gonna go too much into details because I don't want to spoil or give spoilers because nobody loves that. So I'm gonna avoid doing spoilers. But basically, the story is about Okabe Rintaro and his friends who created a time machine and are dealing with the consequences of the creating that machine in question. I really enjoyed the story. It was really interesting because I love works that talk about time traveling. The story had a lot of plot twists that I didn't see coming, which were really interesting, and I was really surprised to see them. And some of them I did see coming, but these were, I think, was very obvious, so it wasn't very surprising to see them coming with these plot twists because it was very obvious, I think, in my opinion, that they were coming. I'd give the story an 8 or a 9 because the story kept me entertained the most part, but some of the time it was really long and very boring in my opinion. But the first part was really good in its sound, but it took a lot of time before going into the really good part, which was the second half of the story. And the first half took a bit of long time before going that, but I think the first half was a lot of world building, so I'm not gonna complain about that because this part was really important to the second half. But I think it took a lot of time before going into the second half, which was a great part. For the characters, the main story was very focused on Akabe Rintaro, also known as Hoin Kyoma, and his mental state. We hardly saw any character developments on the other characters, not saying that there's none, but was very low in comparison to Okabe Rintaro because he was the one going back in time without his friends, so his friends was always reset, but him we saw a very continuation of his development, while the others was really slow and small. All the characters are very likable in my opinion. They all had their own quirks and they all complemented each other, which made them create very hilarious scenes in the visual novels. In my opinion, my favorite was Ferris, but Kurisu was very close second. For the characters, I'd give a 8 out of 10. But in the gameplay now, it's not much because it's a visual novel, so there's not much beside pressing a button and making choices. But what I think was very interesting is that the choices was made through Okabe's phone, and I think that was amazing because it felt like you were Okabe and you were talking to his friends directly. That was very fun. Also, you can also customize the phone with backgrounds and ringtones, so that was really immersive in my opinion, so that was really interesting. But besides that, I don't have anything much to say about gameplay. I won't give any score because there was much to say about it, so I'm gonna say it's not applicable. So that's it. For the art, I really like the art. I don't really know how to describe it. I think I'm gonna say it's a bit rough. I don't know, maybe, but in my opinion, it was really good. It was really fun. It was really unique. So it was really interesting. So I give it a 8. I think it could be improved a little bit, but it was unique in some way, and I think it should stay like that. So I'd give it a 8 out of 10. For the opening, I'm gonna say it right now. The opening was great. The song was a banger. It was really encapsulate the theme of the visual novels very well. So I think it was really great. I'd give it maybe a 9 out of 10. The soundtrack was also a banger. I really enjoyed Gate of Steiner, the piano version which played in the background while playing the game. I'm not gonna make you listen to it because of copyright reasons, and I have to admit that I don't really pay attention to music, so the fact that I remember this music in particular proves that I really enjoyed it. I'd give the soundtracks and opening a 8 out of 10. Since I have watched the anime, I will not compare it to the visual novel. For starters, I will talk about the opening. I really love that opening of the anime. It's definitely one of my favorite opening of all time. So I will say that the anime opening is better than the visual novel opening. The song of the anime is very great and the visual are so good also. So much better than the opening of the visual novels, but the visual novels is so very great, so don't get me wrong on that. Now that I said this, I really like the design of Kirisi in the anime, being compared to the visual novels, but I also don't like the design of Moeka in the anime compared to the visual novels. I mean, look at that, they really got it with Kirisi, so that's a really great, but I'm really sad that they didn't get Moeka right. There were also some scenes that I thought were really cool and plot relevant to the story that didn't make it into anime, so I was very disappointed that they didn't show it, so that's really sad. But nonetheless, the anime was great, so definitely one of my top anime ever. This concludes this video. I will give the visual novel a 9 out of 10. I would read it before the anime because there were some scenes that weren't shown that I thought was really cool and plot relevant to the story that weren't in the anime. I am a mad YouTuber. It's so cool, son of a bitch.